Bernhard, you are an international reporter. You cover the topic of disruption across a multitude of industries. And today you talk to us about a wonderful example of disruption. There wasn't access to retail banking in Africa for millions of people.
That's right.
And you have a phone company or phone companies coming in and creating a banking system that's cashless.
That's right. It's created almost a bankless society for that 80% of the population that was considered unbanked or did not have any access to traditional banking. The numbers are impressive. The last statistics in mid-2012 was something like over 60 billion US dollars in terms of money transferred back and forth between these phones. It's gone not just Africa, it's across the developing world, and soon you will start to see it in Europe, and I do believe it's going to be a global movement.
And so, Andy, you grew up in Africa. What do you think of this transformation?
Actually, Valerie, it's for me, it's not surprising. You know, I came to the United States as a student many years ago, and the first thing I noticed when I came here is my bank card, which worked in every ATM in South Africa, wouldn't work in half the ATMs here. And the cell phone technology was really fragmented and embryonic, whereas in Africa it was very advanced. So what we saw is that necessity drove the innovation and that people could leapfrog over the technology. So instead of building massive infrastructure for landlines and multiple banks competing with each other, they saw the synergy of sharing networks, whether it was in ATMs or in cellular networks, and they leapfrogged ahead. So this is no surprise to me.
Do you think that we'll see a cashless society in Africa before the rest of the world? Is that possible?
You don't necessarily need all the infrastructure to actually make the technology work. We don't have to build banks out in the villages in Africa, and we don't have to build all that infrastructure. So can we transfer that to a clinical trial setting and say, can the patients actually engage with databases, with investigators, with scientists, without going to the infrastructure of a hospital? And the answer is clearly yes. With patient-reported outcomes, questionnaires, with consenting, all of this can be done in an electronic format without the infrastructure that's needed. And infrastructure is costly. So we see a huge efficiency from this technology in the clinical research space. You do need doctors to diagnose and you do need doctors to prescribe. So you will never get away from that part. But the rest, we can actually collapse much of that infrastructure.
So you're a scientist in the drug development space. You see examples that we can learn from what Bernhard shared with us, what's happening in Africa in the clinical space.
Absolutely, yes. The devices that we now have that can actually measure heart rate, blood pressure, can be done at the point of care, at the patient's home. And we can use cell phone technology to send that medical information straight into a database, straight into the doctor's desk and computer. So absolutely, yes, the technology can be transferred.
Thank you both very much.